All right, let's just jump right into this explainer and explore a really fascinating universal struggle that pretty much all of us face on a daily basis, which is our intense craving for sugar. I mean, we all know the feeling, right? You're eyeing that dessert menu or you're just walking down the candy aisle and you feel this almost magnetic pull towards sweet foods. Well, spoiler alert, that craving, it's not a modern weakness at all. It is actually deeply, deeply rooted in our ancient past.
So let's start with a mystery that impacts almost everyone today. Why is it so incredibly hard to quit sugar, even when we know objectively that it's bad for our modern bodies? We know for a fact that consuming too much sugar leads to negative health outcomes. And yet, our brain actively rewards us with these intense feelings of pleasure when we eat it. Why on earth would our biology set us up to desire something that can ultimately harm us?
Well, the striking truth is that your craving isn't a modern weakness. Actually, scratch that idea entirely. It's not a lack of willpower at all. It's an ancient, hardwired, biological survival tool. See, thousands of years ago, sugar was one of the absolute rarest and most valuable sources of energy in nature. So your desire for it is literally an instinct that kept human beings alive through some of the harshest conditions in human history.
Just think about the dramatic shift between our past and present for a second. In the Stone Age, obviously, there were no candy shops on the corner. There were no soft drinks in the fridge, and certainly no daily desserts. Sweet foods were incredibly difficult to find. Fast forward to today, and we live in a world of just overwhelming abundance. Sugar is produced on a massive scale, it's available absolutely everywhere, and it's hidden in countless everyday foods.
To really grasp why this matters, we kind of need to put ourselves in the shoes of our ancestors and picture the harsh reality of the Stone Age. They spent their entire lives hunting, walking for miles and miles, and just endlessly searching for food. They were burning massive amounts of energy every single day just to exist. There was absolutely no guarantee of a next meal, and running out of energy simply wasn't an option if you wanted to stay alive.
So in that unforgiving environment, imagine what it meant to stumble upon something sweet. A handful of berries or a ripe piece of fruit wasn't just, a tasty little snack. It was quick energy to survive. When ancient humans discovered something sweet, their brains reacted in a really powerful way, because finding it was essentially like hitting a biological goldmine. It provided the exact burst of life-saving calories they needed to make it through another day.
And over thousands of years, humans evolved this really powerful biological loop to ensure survival. First, you find the sweet fruit. Second, you get that vital, quick energy. Third, the brain rewards you with intense feelings of pleasure. And fourth, that pleasure actively encourages you to go out and seek those rare sources of energy all over again. Our brains literally wired us to become sugar seekers, because back then, sugar meant life.
Now, this biological survival mechanism worked flawlessly in the ancient world. It was a completely perfect adaptation for an environment of absolute scarcity. But then, something unprecedented happened. The world around us changed. Human innovation altered our environment at lightning speed. I mean, much, much faster than our physical biology could possibly adapt.
When you zoom out and look at the grand timeline of human history, the mismatch becomes incredibly obvious. For around 300,000 years, we lived in a state of extreme hunter-gatherer scarcity. Then, just 10,000 years ago, early agriculture pops up. But it's only in the last 200 years, which is just a tiny invisible blink of an eye in human history, that mass sugar production began. Evolution is extremely slow, and our biology just simply couldn't keep pace with this sudden explosive invention.
And that brings us to our modern reality. Thousands of years later, humans figured out how to produce sugar on a massive scale. A substance that was once literally the absolute rarest treat in nature suddenly became this cheap commodity. It is now available everywhere, and it's added to countless drinks and foods. We can now effortlessly consume sugar in quantities that our ancestors couldn't have imagined in their wildest dreams.
Scientists actually have a specific term for our current predicament. They call it an evolutionary mismatch. This happens when a trait that evolved to keep you alive in an ancient environment becomes actively harmful in a modern one. And this completely explains why your brain still reacts to a modern candy bar or a soft drink exactly like it would to a rare Stone Age fruit. The brain's alarm bells are still ringing, screaming calories, energy, survival, even when we are just sitting comfortably in an ergonomic office chair.
Because our biological software basically hasn't updated yet to realize sugar is no longer scarce, we are seeing some severe consequences.
This mismatch leads directly to the overconsumption of easily available sugar. In fact, scientists believe this specific biological lag between our ancient biology and modern diets is what contributes so heavily to the rising rates of modern obesity and metabolic diseases. Our bodies are essentially simply hoarding energy for a famine that, for most of us, is never going to come.
But here is a really important mindset shift, and it's a real game changer. The problem was never that humans loved sweetness. That craving actually helped our ancestors survive. It's a biological success story. It is incredibly freeing to realize that your modern struggle with sugar isn't some deep moral failing or a lack of willpower on your part. It is just a survival tool from the Stone Age that became a modern struggle simply because our environment changed way too rapidly.
Ultimately, the whole shebang traces back to one singular, echoing command that is hardwired into our ancient brains. Find something sweet. It means energy. That right there is the ancient operating system running quietly in the background of your mind every single time you look at a dessert menu.
So, now that you know your brain's ancient secret, how will you navigate the modern candy aisle? Knowing that you are actively fighting thousands of years of evolutionary survival instincts, how does this change your perspective on your very next craving? Understanding the mechanics behind this mismatch is your first big step in taking back control from your Stone Age programming. Just keep that in mind the next time you find yourself reaching for a sweet treat.